Hey, everybody. Welcome to the big interview with one Mr. Dave Bradshaw, one of the voices of WCBW. Dave, if you'd like to say hello to everybody out there.
Hello, pleasure to be here. How you
So,
doing?
I'm great. I'm hanging out with you this morning, 10 o'clock my time, 3 in the afternoon for you.
So you're in Florida, right?
Yep.
I went to school in Florida.
Did you really?
So
Where at?
I am a Florida Gator.
No.
So I did my master's degree in Florida. So
So,
I was a season ticket holder at the Swamp for 3 years.
no way. So not
There you
only are
go.
you a hater of one of the greatest wrestlers to ever get in the ring, Martin Kirby, you also are a
Yes.
Gator.
Yes.
You
A
poor
Gator
thing.
and a hater.
A Gator and a hater. It makes sense. It makes sense. 'Cause I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan, so you know.
Oh man, that's terrible. I went to the Georgia and Florida play each other every Halloween, right? Over in
Yeah.
Jacksonville.
It's
I
like the
went to
biggest
three of
thing.
them. We lost all three.
Dude, you need to come
So
to more. Then you should come to this one this year. Like you should.
really?
Yeah, you should because maybe you guys will lose, so Georgia can win again.
Well, see, I think I was there for 3 bad years because normally we kick you guys' asses, right? But I think I was just
Yeah.
I was straight after the Tim Tebow era, and
Oh God.
after that, yeah, it all went downhill a little bit for a while. But we're coming back. We're good. So
Yeah. Whatever.
anyway,
Really cool little factoid, Dave Bradshaw, Florida Gator. That's awesome.
there you go.
All right, so let's get straight to it. I got some questions here. I got one from a fan, two from fans actually.
Okay.
Let me get to them real quick. I'll put their names beside them so I wouldn't forget which ones they were. All right, here we go. First one is actually from my wife. Actually, she's not a huge wrestling fan, but she's always wanted to ask somebody in your position, how hard is it to keep your cool if the talent is possibly hurt or worse while you're watching the show? You know, you're behind the mic and somebody takes a pile driver and they go down. How hard is
Yeah.
it to keep from you're cool if you know the person or whatever?
I mean, yeah, it's difficult. The I don't know if it's an advantage is the right word, but the advantage I guess you have as a commentator is you don't always know. I tend to not ask the guys exactly what's going to happen in the matches, if you know what I
Hmm.
mean. So sometimes I know the finish, sometimes I don't, but I certainly don't know the detail of everything they're going to do. So quite often, on the few occasions when that has happened, I've been half wondering whether it was, planned, whether they were just selling, whether it was part of the match. So you have to keep going, obviously, because you don't entirely know if it is scripted or if that's intended or not. But in any case, you just sort of, I don't know, you just kind of power through in the moment, and you have to rely on the fact that there's other people who are going to take care of those, take care of an injury and take the guys to the back, I guess.
So you try and keep it some spontaneity there. That way,
Well,
you know.
yeah,
That,
and I mean, it's again, it sounds kind of cruel, but if you are genuinely worried, it adds some authenticity to your commentary as well. Like it makes you more emotionally invested in the moment. So as much as you are worried, it's not really your job to to help the person when you
yeah,
have
yeah.
to do that. So you kind of just have to power through and hope they're okay. And then obviously the first thing you do when you get back behind the curtain is find out how they're doing. But in the meantime, you have to sort of carry on with the show.
Carry on. I had another fan question. We're going to get to my questions for you. This one is from Emilio Kirtley,
Hmm.
and they ask, "How on earth do you deal with listening to Alex Shane?"
Oh, great question. I don't know. It's a nightmare. Alex he is a force of nature. He is. I mean, I've known Alex for 8 years. I mean, but what a lot of people, I think, maybe who are new to British wrestling, perhaps they've just become fans through.
Oh, that's me.
WCW.
I am very new to British wrestling.
Well, see, what a lot of people don't know is that Alex is actually a real innovator in British wrestling. He was the guy who first brought Ring of Honor over. He was instrumental in a company over here called the FWA, who were huge in the early sort of 2000s. They were almost, I guess, if you want a crude equivalent, they were our equivalent to ECW in terms of their sort of innovation during that period of time. So Alex has been a promoter. He's been a British heavyweight champion. He's done all this kind of stuff, and now he's trying out commentary. And he is once again brought his own inimitable style to commentary, and sometimes I've just, again, we don't rehearse obviously when we commentate.
No.
I just kind of have to
Wing
go with
it.
whatever he's going to say, and I'm as often as surprised as the viewers are, I'm sure. So,
well, I think Alex is a great commentator. He picks all the right guys. I mean, he's a Martin Kirby fan, obviously, and then he's got all these other, he's great at it. He just picks the right. He gets on you a little bit sometimes. I can see, but in all seriousness, I like Alex. I think he's really cool. I love listening to both of y'all together. Y'all's banter is oh god. Sometimes I have lost track of watching the match, paying attention to what you guys are saying.
You know what I compare him to? He's like one of those. Everyone has within their group of friends. Everyone has a friend who's like, they're just so annoying, but they're your friend anyway. That's Alex Shane on commentary. You just kind of have to put up with him and just sort of ignore the ridiculousness or point it out and try and make them realise that they need to reevaluate their lives sometimes, which is what Alex maybe needs to do with some of his comments. But he never will. He'll never listen to me.
No, I can remember the first, and I'm fixing to get to my questions, but I wanted to say I can remember watching, because recently I was trying to find something to replace watching Raw and SmackDown, because I like Raw and SmackDown, but I wanted something different,
Uh-huh.
And I had been following What Culture for like 3 years. And I remember when they announced the WCPW thing, and I was like, oh, I'll check it out eventually. I just never did, and, finally I was like, what, I'm going to go check out this WCPW. I started at loaded number 1, and in 2 weeks I've caught up. I'm at 13. I've loved every bit of it. I can remember when you and Shane first started. Y'all weren't there from the very first show, right?
No, they did. I think they did about 5 or 6 weeks without us. Yeah, first show I did was one called Built to Destroy, which was their first kind of semi-big show as opposed to their weekly loaded show.
And I can remember watching that one, the first time you and Alex showed up, and it was weird for a minute because I was so used to Ross and Simon. Well, actually, just Ross, or like 2 weeks before, because Simon had left. I don't know where he went. And I was so used to Ross, and I was liking him. I can't imagine how it would be with you, Ross, and Alex Shane in commentary. I think that would be pretty hilarious.
Oh god, I think I would lose the will to live. Imagine sitting between those two for 2 hours. It'd be terrible.
Oh man. Okay, so we got the fan questions out of the way. Hope all you fans who, I promoted it so much trying to get some fan interaction. I got a few people, but that was it. One of them doesn't even watch wrestling. She was just trying to help me out, damn it. But here we go. So, from the very beginning, how did wrestling commentating start for you? Like, where did you really get the idea to really start wanting to do wrestling commentary?
I've been a wrestling fan since I was, 8 years old. So I say wrestling, mostly WWF, honestly.
Nothing wrong with that.
And so I was one of my first experiences as a wrestling fan. I went to SummerSlam '92 at Wembley Stadium. And then, from then onwards, I was kind of hooked. So
you were at SummerSlam '92?
Yes, I was.
I have that on DVD. I love that one.
You can see me sometimes. If you look 25 rows back, look for a 9-year-old version of me, you'll see it. But yeah, I was at that, and then with my Ultimate Warrior sign. And ever since then, I've been a fan. But I did student radio when I was at university, at my undergrad. So this was in England, not in Florida.
Okay.
But I was the station, the manager of the student radio station at my university in England, and then did a bit of like politics type shows and like news type shows. I even did like music shows. I kind of did everything actually, but I did some sports as well. I did some like football, like soccer commentary, and then when I graduated from there and got into the real world, I kind of thought, well, what can I do to keep
Dave? You still there, boss? We may have lost Dave. Dave, I'm going to throw on a track real quick to put a quick break in there to fix the audio. Sorry about this, guys. I don't know what's going on here. gonna throw up some Arrowhead real quick. Here's some Arrowhead with Desert Cult Ritual. Welcome back to Exit 92 Radio's big interview with Dave Bradshaw. Sorry about the tech issues there, but you know, it happens. It's live, well, live sort of. And we're back here with Dave. We were just talking about, you know, how you got into commentary. You said that you had done all this stuff at undergrad on the radio and wanted to keep it, and then you kind of went out.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I was. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if that was my end or your end of the technical issues, but yeah. So I, after I finished, I was like, well, how can I keep doing something, radio related? And then figured, well, I'm a wrestling fan, so from then it was kind of a natural leap to commentary, and then I just had to find someone who would employ me.
So you actually answered my second question in your first question, talking about you're a wrestling fan from a child. So maybe I can replace it with, I guess, Old Warrior was your favorite then? Ultimate Warrior?
Oh, when I was 8 or 9, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was always Warrior over Hogan.
Warrior Hogan, I can't blame you there. They're both awesome. Yeah.
No, Warrior first. That's what I mean. Like when it was Warrior v Hogan, I was a Warrior guy, 100%.
Yeah, I remember the first time I seen that, I thought Hogan was gonna really pull it off, but Warrior came out of nowhere. Damn it. All right, so what was your first mainstay wrestling gig? What were you? What was the first company you worked for to call the matches?
So I started going to a company called IPW UK, who are still going now. They're based in kind of Kent, which is in the sort of southeast of England, just outside of London. And I asked their promoter, who's a friend of mine he's a friend now, called Daniel Edler, if they had any need for a commentator, and he was like, well, we might kind of soon come to a few shows. So I just went to several months shows as a fan, and eventually they needed someone, so then they ran some auditions at the studio where they did all their editing in East London. So I went over to that for a day and just kind of had to commentate a match with their color commentator, and they liked it and then put me on the show the next month. So I guess the whole process from getting in touch to doing my first show was probably, 5 months. And I did my first show in about September 2008.
Now, how was that? How was calling your first show? You nervous or?
Oh yeah, being backstage is terrifying when you're when you're first there, because there's a certain etiquette to how you're supposed to behave backstage, which I know has been kind of well documented. But things like shaking hands with everyone, as a sign of respect when you first enter the arena and when you leave, which I didn't even know until Dean Ayers, my color commentator, who took me under his wing. Thank you, Dean. Explained that to me, and then there's a whole sort of things you just don't see as a fan. People working out their matches and how it's all going to go down. So it was fascinating, and then, but yeah, to be out there live in front of an audience is there's no way to prepare for that the first time it happens. You know, you just have to kind of go and hope you don't suck. You know,
I don't definitely think you've been doing really well in the not sucking department. I love the energy you bring to the matches sometimes, man, especially at the end. That is, you know, I wanted to tell you about this because it's just so funny. You know, when I get home from work, I get home at like 9 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, to have some time to myself, I'll sit up and I'll watch. Here recently, I've been binging WCPW to catch up. I wanted to catch all the way up before the interview.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I would sit there and then, like, we get to the last match and then somebody runs in and something happens and you'd be like, oh my God, we gotta go off air. We gotta go off air. But if you come back next week, and see it. And there's an episode for next week, you know, and I'm like, damn it. I gotta go to the next one. I want to see what happens. And then it would go on and I'd be at 9 o'clock turns into 4 o'clock in the fucking morning. And I'm like, I can't come in next week. I've got to go to bed.
Yeah, at some point you have to leave it. Well, that's good television, right? If we can leave you on a cliffhanger, then and make you want to come back next week, then we've done our job, I guess. But
yeah, y'all, you and Alex and commentary and the wrestling as a whole has been perfect.
Well, thank you. I'm very flattered to hear that.
Yeah, y'all deserve it. A lot of us fans out there, you know, we'll talk on those little Facebook groups and stuff, and we all like you and Alex's commentary for sure.
Well, that's good to hear. I hope so. We do our best, I guess. But it's you know, it's been so much fun. I to be honest, I hadn't done, like I say, I started in 2008, and then I was doing a lot of live commentary around the UK for, I don't know, the next 3 years. But then I went to Florida for 3 years to do my masters. So I kind of stopped for a while, and then since I've been back the last couple of years, I've done quite a lot of commentary, but it's all been studio stuff. You know, me and Alex are the English language commentary team for AAA in Mexico. So we do a lot of their stuff, but we do it afterwards. Obviously, you know, we recorded. No, we're not. We don't fly to Mexico, so we kind of do it after. So actually, doing this WCPW stuff has been really the first time in probably 5 years. One of the first. I've done a couple of shows here and there, but really the first time I've regularly been doing live commentary for quite a while. So it's been great. Live is so much more fun. You know, when you're in the arena, it's more fun than doing it. Yeah, because you're among the fans, you feel the energy. It's just so much better than doing it in post production if you can.
So speaking of the energy and, you know, feeling the fans, what has been your favorite match to call thus far in your career?
Oh, my whole career or in WCPW?
If you want to do either, you know, if you just want to go whole career, you know, and just tell us what your favorite match is. I mean, you could say WCPW's as well. I mean, either or. Because that's the one, see, like I said, I'm very uneducated as far as the British wrestling scene is concerned. WCPW was my first dive into British wrestling, and I have absolutely fell in love with it thus far. Joe Coffey's wrestling style is so different than what I'm used to, you know, El Ligero. I mean, I'm used to luchadors, but he's got a kind of a different, you know, British-esque to his luchador and stuff. And it's been really good. So I don't know a lot of the other companies yet. So if you want to do WCPW, that's up to you. But if you want to go your whole career, it's fine as well.
I'll give you a couple. So WCPW, the highlight so far, and no offense to Alex, but I've just recorded. So you know, Refuse to Lose. We recorded on a Thursday, which was. Well, it was live, right? It was on iPay-per-view. That was on Thursday, I think, the 6th of this month.
Really good, really good show, by the way, guys.
And then we recorded 2 episodes of Loaded, which is the one that was last week's and this coming week's, was on the Friday. Mm-hmm. And then the Saturday we went to Manchester to do a big show which was headlined by Cody Rhodes against Kurt Angle. And for that show, which we're calling True Legacy, you'll see that in a couple of weeks on the YouTube channel.
Sweet.
I was commentating with Jim Cornette. So you'll hear that soon.
But
wow. That's just, for me, you know, such an incredible thing to be able to do. And it was I think it was the biggest live crowd I've ever commentated in front of as well. We had 2,600 fans there. Just a huge, it was in an ice rink, you know, arena, kind of a hockey arena. Okay. So it was just unbelievable. So that's far and away my highlight in WCPW so far. I guess prior to that, I did a lot of stuff in IPW UK and in the FWA. Those were the 2 companies I worked in the sort of late noughties, sort of 08 to 11 kind of time. And among them, there was a tag team feud we had in IPW UK for a while, which was a tag team called the Leaders of the New School, which was Zack Sabre Jr. You probably heard of him. He's, in my view, the world's best technical wrestler right now. And Marty Scurll. They were teaming.
I've heard both of them.
And they were against a team called the Thrillers, who were Mark Haskins, who's the current Progress champion, and Joel Redman, who was in NXT for a while after that. But those guys had just this incredible year-long feud. They had like a TLC match in the middle of it, multiple tag title matches. So that was some incredible stuff that I did early in my career. And actually, one more thing I would say was the second weekend I ever did commentary, I got to do a show with Ring of Honor guys in Wolverhampton, just outside of Birmingham over here. And Daniel Bryan was on that show, and Seth Rollins, who was Tyler Black at the time,
Nice.
El Generico, like Sami Zayn, all these different guys, the Briscoes.
I love them.
And man, I'd been in the business for, working in it as opposed to being a fan for about a week. And I found myself, commentating these guys who were obviously, they hadn't signed for WWE back then, but they were still pretty big names, and it was, just incredible. So yeah, I've had a lot of, I'm very lucky, I'm very blessed. I've had a lot of great experiences through wrestling.
Well, believe it or not, you were actually my first bigger wrestling interview. I've had two people on the wrestling show that we do on our podcast channel. I had Brian Zane from Wrestling with Regret, which was a semi big one. That was a pretty cool one for me. Then I had Wicked J, which was a wrestler from a company called ESW out in Texas. Unfortunately, he passed away a few months back. But yeah, he was a backyard wrestler from a company. So you're actually the first official, full length company man that I've actually talked to, talking about with WCPW and all the other promotions you've worked. So
I'm pleased to be here.
I've been pretty excited about this on since I got you to since I badgered you enough and you said yes.
No man, it's fun. We were talking on Twitter, right? I'm enjoying the banter with the fans on Twitter, and there's been a lot of it the past couple of weeks. This controversy about Martin Kirby has been generating quite some interest.
It is that I can't say controversy. It just doesn't sound right to me. But controversy. It's been
controversy. Yeah, that's the American way of saying it, right?
Yeah. It is. Yeah, this controversy has been insane. Adam Pacitti has turned into this treacherous snake, and it's...
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, granted, he's coming across a little bit erratic in the past couple of weeks, but I think he's been driven to it to a point. Like, the way I said this to Alex on commentary last week, right? And I'll say it again here. You can't have it both ways. Like, people were spent the last 6-8 weeks saying that Adam Pacitti's a weak general manager because he banned the pile driver, and then everyone was doing pile drivers, and Travis Banks just bullied him into getting into the triple threat match at Refuse to Lose, and all this kind of stuff. And then suddenly he, makes a bold move and actually rights a wrong by, Martin Kirby should never have been given that title shot in the first place, so he corrected that. You might not like how he did it, but he did it, and it was a bold move, and then people criticize him for that. So, in a way, the guy can't win.
Let me update the people who are that will be listening. Martin Kirby wrestled Joseph Connors at that Refuse to Lose show that the great Dave Bradshaw mentioned earlier. Well, Martin Kirby has had an eventful few weeks. He's been winning and winning and winning. He's just been tearing up the roster, and he had a match the week before Refuse to Lose, and Adam Pacitti earlier would not give him a title shot at Refuse to Lose, and so he handcuffed himself to the ring for a match, almost 2 matches out of the night.
Oh, I mean, and before that, he refused to leave the ring and started doing his own version of karaoke, right? Called Kirby-oke, which was awful. My ears are still bleeding. And so the whole thing, he basically sabotaged our weekly program for close to half an hour and gets a title shot out of it. But I mean, Pacitti didn't have a choice because the guy wasn't going to leave any other way. But then he's, if you think of this from Adam Pacitti's perspective, right? If you're Adam Pacitti, you can't allow a guy to win the world title having gained his shot in that way. Otherwise, everyone could just handcuff themselves to the ropes every week and get a title shot that way. What's the point of even having number one contenders matches if you're going to do it that way?
If you put it that way, I can kind of see. But I don't know. I don't think his actions, because like I was about to say, when he had the match at Refused to Lose, middle of the match, Adam Pacitti runs out. When he was about to hit the most electrifying elbow, Martin Kirby was about to hit the most electrifying elbow in sports entertainment today. The Zoidberg elbow.
We don't know if it's the most electrifying elbow because he's never actually successfully hit it.
He was going to. He was going to do it,
Well, yeah, he says that every week. And
Adam runs out and pushes him off the ring. And it has been absolutely, people have been losing their minds ever since.
They have. And I just don't get it. I mean, apart from what I just said about, why Pacitti did what he had to do. Why are people Martin Kirby fans? He's the most annoying man on the planet.
Dude, I have to agree with Alex Shane here and say that I've been on the Martin Kirby train before it had wheels on it. So, I can't. I don't know. He's just. I've liked him. I've always thought those first few matches I was a little about Martin Kirby. I was solidly behind Ligero. And that was a great feud. The El Ligero Martin Kirby feud was really good. And it all started at the Fat Ligero segment. I don't know.
Yes.
That was really funny, and it was just after that with the Will Ospreay match, just bolted him into. I mean, you have to admit, love him or hate him, the Martin Kirby Will Ospreay match is still one of the greatest matches I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, credit where it's due. By the way, I don't have any problem with Martin Kirby in terms of his ability in ring. No doubt he's a incredibly talented wrestler. That match against Will Ospreay in particular was remarkable. But how people watched Kirby Oki and then him cuffing himself to the ring for half an hour, and that made him more popular, not less, makes me wonder if I just don't understand the world anymore. I don't know.
It's just time to call it quits,
Yeah, I might just go and dig a hole and live in it for the rest of my life until I understand humanity again.
Oh, man. No, Martin Kirby, though, like you said, I love his in-ring ability. He's been really good in the ring. They've all been really good. Joe Coffey, El Ligero. See, that's one thing that I wanted to say to you when I had you on here. Because I got a few more questions for you, but I wanted to say that almost every show that I've watched from WCPW, there's at least been one match that was just absolutely insane match of the year material. I mean, I don't know. It's just been awesome.
Yeah, I think the match quality has just been, and the thing I find most interesting with this, with what we're doing on Loaded every week is that you sometimes just don't know where that match of the night is going to come from either. Like this past week, we had a pair of singles matches between two tag teams who are competing.
Spoilers for anybody who's listening that haven't seen it yet.
I won't announce who won these matches.
Okay.
But we have a team who are fairly new to the company called Mustache Mountain.
Love them.
And then a team who are calling themselves All Business is their new name. They're Johnny Moss and Liam Slater. And they paired off into two singles matches. So Slater and Liam Slater and Tyler Bate, who's one half of Mustache Mountain, had this just such a fun, old World of Sports style singles match. And then Johnny Moss, who's just huge. I call him the Cumbrian Man Mountain, and that's a very apt description. He fought the other half of Mustache Mountain, Trent Seven. And Seven and Moss, they're both heavyweights, and they just both, man. I saw someone describe them on Twitter afterwards as just warriors, and that's exactly right. Hard hitting isn't the word for that, and it came from nowhere. I didn't even know that match was coming up until I arrived at the arena that day, and then boom! To me that was match of the night.
Because I watched a little bit last night before I went to bed. I didn't get to finish it. I made it to Lost Perspectiva versus Prospect, which was dreadful.
Oh man! Speaking of annoying people.
Yeah, Prospect definitely annoying. I'll give you that for sure. Kennedy gets on my damn nerves.
Well, me and him have some back and forth on Twitter from time to time. He's a piece of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I had another question from a fan that I was on the other page here, forgot about. Do you ever get to work? It's a two-part question. Do you ever get to work with Adam Pacitti very closely? Like, at all, do you talk to him? Do y'all ever, have meetings or anything together, I guess is what they're trying to say?
No, not really. Like, obviously, I see him at shows. I did see Adam Blompier at shows until Rampage destroyed him, and happily I haven't seen him since. But no, like they're he's a busy man, is Adam Pacitti, because he's the general manager, obviously, and he's also involved in the YouTube channel, the What Culture YouTube channel, making his own videos and stuff. So I see him at shows, and we talk occasionally on social media. But no, he's very busy and under considerable stress at the moment. I think it's fair to say.
The second part of this question is, I guess, do you ever work closely with Adam Pacitti? And if so, I guess, it doesn't matter, but if so, is it true that he hates puppies?
Adam Pacitti hates puppies?
That's what somebody asked there.
I don't know. I think that sounds like someone trying to slander his good character again. But I think that's one of those curb crawlers, Kirby fans, as they're calling themselves.
The curb.
So I'm not gonna dignify that with a reply.
All right. So you said whenever we originally corresponded, that you had the opportunity to work closely with JR for a little bit. How was that? Because I know you said he was your hero.
Yes.
And how was working with your hero? Was it all that you could ask for? Or?
Yeah, I didn't get to commentate with JR in the way I did with Jim Cornette. It was two very different experiences, because with Jim Cornette, as I say, we were commentating it, and because we weren't commentating live, by the way, we were pre-recording. Jim was able to, between matches, give me feedback and say this went well, this didn't, and it was just so useful. So he was so generous with his time was Jim Cornette, and that was incredibly helpful. With JR, it was more like I only met him on the day, I met him the night before of Refuse to Lose, and obviously he'd flown in and he'd done his homework. He knew a fair bit about all the different storylines and the wrestlers, but still he wanted to have someone there to help, and he was kind enough to let me be one of the people in their ear, in the headphones during the show.
Okay, cool.
So I was kind of what we call it the gorilla position, right? The production desk just behind the curtain before people go out. And I was in kind of, I was in constant contact with the commentary team. My mic was constantly on, so I could talk to them at any time, but mostly, it was JR and Jim Cornette and Alex. So I just kind of let them have at it. They don't need me telling them how to do their job. But, just the very fact that JR was willing to, trust me with that role, I thought was quite telling of what a good person he is. And he's just, he's iconic, isn't he? Like, just that voice, is such a big part of all of our childhoods. And just to kind of, and I was in the dressing room sort of afterwards when a few of the wrestlers came in and asked him and Jim Cornette for their feedback. And he was just, he's like Cornette, he was just very, very happy to, give constructive feedback to everyone, and just a real part of the team. So yeah, very impressive guy. They say never meet your heroes, right? Well, this wasn't the case with JR. He was a really top gentleman, and it was an honor to meet him.
Well, that was, I actually, when I was a kid and I started watching wrestling, was, I'm only 24, so I'm a little bit younger than you, I think. Mm-hmm. But I started at the pinnacle of wrestling, the Attitude Era. And, JR would make... There's some matches that I go back and watch today that weren't even that good, but because JR's commentary was there, him and Jim and Jerry the King Lawler, they just... magic. It was just magic. The Mankind versus Undertaker match of '96 at King of the Ring in the Hell in a Cell was a really cool match. The bumps were good, but but it was very slow. But JR kept it, to where, oh, is he gonna die? Is Mankind gonna fucking die this show? I mean,
yeah. So. I mean, there's so many moments, from that era of WWE where there's kind of iconic lines from JR, and sometimes as a commentator, because obviously anyone who's a wrestling commentator has been so influenced by him, you kind of have to be a little bit careful not to be like a cheap rip-off of JR. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You have to really try and come up with your own style and not just sort of, what would JR say? He's that influential in what I do. That it's really hard. It's been a bit easier recently because there's Mauro Ranallo now as well, who, by the way, I think is incredible in a totally different style to JR. And so when you have sort of several guys you can borrow things from and learn from, that helps. But yeah, I mean, JR is a different plane of existence to the rest of us in the commentary world, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because I called a few football games from my high school, and he was the reason that I wanted to do stuff like that, because I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to do WrestleMania, welcome to the grandest show of them all. I mean, it's just, when you hear JR talk and do those matches, it's insane.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no one like him. I don't know what other adjectives to use to describe him. I mean, he is the voice of wrestling, and he will continue to be for as long as he wants to be. I hope he keeps going. He's coming over here to do another project in Britain soon. I know he's doing New Japan, for American TV, I think. And it's just great that he's still out there doing stuff, post WWE, because it would have been a real shame if he'd just sort of, packed it in entirely after that.
He could have retired and lived the rest of his life off of his WWE years, but it is great that he didn't.
He's a big college football fan as well, by the way.
Yeah.
The reason as I understand it, the reason he didn't, as I say, we filmed Refuse to Lose on the Thursday. The reason he didn't stick around for the Friday and Saturday shows we were recording was he went to get on a flight at 4 a.m. on the Friday morning. I don't know, about 5 or 6 hours after Refuse to Lose finished, he had a taxi pick him up from his hotel to go to Newcastle Airport so that he could fly to Dallas so that he could go and watch his Oklahoma team play Texas on the Saturday. That's how committed he is. He flew across an ocean.
You're going to stop him from getting to that Oklahoma game.
Exactly.
So, I've only got a few more questions before I have to let you go, but I wanted to ask, do you think that WCPW is ever going to get onto a level like the bigger companies like ROH, TNA, or even, WWE one day if they keep going the way they are?
Yeah. What's really interesting about the way WCPW has become so big so quickly, what people forget, I think, is that this company as an actual wrestling promotion is less than 6 months old.
Yeah.
And yet we just did a show in Britain on an independent wrestling show where we drew over 2,500 fans, which is 5 years ago that would have been completely unheard of in Britain. There's a couple of companies who are really succeeding now in Britain who are doing sort of similar numbers, but they've been around 3 or 4 years. And I think the reason that WCPW is growing so quickly is that they've taken an entirely different model as to how to build a wrestling company. So what they've done is they've become sort of popular YouTubers first. They've become YouTube personalities and then transition that following into their own wrestling promotion. And it's something that I don't think anyone else has really tried in the way that they have, and it's had pretty spectacular results. So I think, as long as they keep innovating and thinking how to build a wrestling promotion in this kind of YouTube age in which we live, then the sky's the limit.
What did you think whenever you got the call to come work at WCPW? Were you skeptical because of them starting off with YouTube and going into wrestling? I mean,
see, when I got the call, they'd already been going for a month, so I knew that I had some idea what their production values were like. I'd seen obviously the first 3 or 4 shows. I was confident that it was gonna work. I think, by their own admission, there was a couple of things that needed ironing out in the first couple of weeks, but I think that they very quickly learned how to make their show work and how to please their audience, and it's been, well, the numbers speak for themselves. It's just been such a fun thing to be doing. I'm so pleased to be involved in it, and it's one of the big, it's one of three things I do. I do, as I say, I do AAA in Mexico, and I do New Generation Wrestling, which is another big British promotion that's on around the world on the Fight Network, which is a TV network that's in about 36 countries around the world. Mm-hmm. So I do two British promotions, and there's some overlap. A lot of the guys are on both promotions. El Liguero is on both of NGW and What Culture. So is Liam Slater. So is Rampage. So there is some overlap, but it's they're all great fun in different ways. AAA is obviously Lucha Libre, which is an entirely different animal. What Culture is what I just said, which is this kind of phenomenon that's grown up through YouTube. And then New Generation Wrestling is sort of a more traditional promotion in the way it's built itself up over time. But it's doing really fun things as well, really compelling storylines. So I'm having a ball at the moment. Everything I'm doing is great. I love it.
That's awesome. That's great. You always gotta love what you do. I wish one day maybe, because right now I'm doing what I love to do. I mean, I'm a butcher for a retail store, actually.
Okay.
And I love doing that as well. But one day I'd like to have something to do with wrestling if I can ever get my hands on it.
Just got to go for it. Just that's what I found. You just kind of, you only get there if you ask, right? So I just, if it's commentating you want to do or whatever it is, you've got to do your homework, find some people who are, local promotions that you like, and then just try and get some experience and see where it leads. You never know.
All right, so I got another question for. Probably this is going to be the second to last one, or the last one possibly.
Okay.
You working in America,
Mm-hmm.
or living in America, comparing to living in the UK, watching wrestling here, the WWE, ROH, TNA, the big companies versus the companies of the UK. What is the different? How is the styles clash as far as British wrestling and American wrestling for you? How do the styles clash between the two?
Well, I mean, for me, it's not just those two as well, because obviously I said I do lucha.
I'm sorry, AAA too.
Yeah, and then I also we for a while until New Japan now have, as I mentioned, they have JR doing some stuff for them and other English language commentators. But me and Alex did some New Japan stuff in 2015 and 2014. So there's a lot of different styles out there. And I mean, there's the Japanese style is what they call strong style for the most part, which is just this real hard striking, which actually is really influencing the British and American independent scenes now as well. But that's been the dominant style in Japan for a long time. And then you've got kind of the lucha stuff, which is a lot more not just in terms of the physical style. There's a lot more kind of flips and rolls and stuff in lucha. But also just the presentation is different. So it's very it's almost like a pantomime in a way. I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all. It's like it's a carnival, I guess. The masks and they don't even. There's not quite the same attempt at making it appear to be a real sporting contest that you maybe get in a strong style match. It's more of a there's these melodramatic good guys, the technicos, and the bad guys who are the rudos, and they clash, and it's more of a acrobatic display than it is a real sort of hard hitting athletic contest. So it's there's a lot of different styles, is what I'm saying, and you do have to adjust your kind of commentary style accordingly. In Britain, by the way, I think we need to be careful, and I think we're doing quite a good job of it, but we need to be careful that we don't lose our own heritage, so that we have a very strong background in that kind of ground game and technical style. A good example of which, by the way, is that Liam Slater and Tyler Bate match on last week's Loaded that I was just talking about a few minutes ago. Yeah. And that's a really distinctly kind of British thing. So I like guys who can sort of, have that kind of strong style match, which is, popular nowadays, but also, sort of pay homage to their British identity by kind of putting in some of that world of sport style stuff, and those two did it very well last week. Zack Sabre Jr., as I say, I think is they call him the technical wizard, and that's why he's my favorite wrestler in the world right now, with good reason. And so there's such a range of styles out there. It's really refreshing. There's something for everyone in wrestling right now.
Yeah. So, on WCPW, you've had a bunch of TNA guys come over, ROH guys come over.
Mm-hmm.
What are we looking at for the future, do you think? I mean, what other stars do you think there's going to be more TNA guys coming over to WCPW to compete? Or because that's been one of my favorite things is the cross-promoting between TNA, ROH, and you guys.
I hope so. I'm not privy to the conversations. Obviously, we have Matt Hardy coming over in end of November, start of December, which will be interesting. I've never met him before, so I've never met him when he was mentally sane. So God knows what it would be like to meet him now. So I'm looking forward to that. I really hope we get Cody Rhodes back, because Cody Rhodes is just you don't see this. You don't see what he's like backstage, obviously, if you're watching the show, but he is just the most wonderful human being. I doing Refuse to Lose and the shows we did this month were the first time I've met Cody, and he's just such a consummate professional. Shows up in a suit backstage. He's as interested in the ring crew as he is in the top main event guys. He is just genuinely a really engaging, nice person. So I really hope we have him back, and just a student of the business. You hear him talking through his matches with the guys he's going to work with that night, and he is just so brimming with ideas, and you can really start to see when you see him in that environment just how wasted he was in the role he was playing in WWE, and what a courageous decision it was for him to cut those ties. Where let's face it, he probably had a job for life, right? And he chose to leave that to come over and ply his trade and do something that was more sort of creatively fulfilling. So I hope
son of a plumber, I guess.
Yep. Cody's great. Drew Galloway, we've had. Obviously he's British wrestler originally, but he was, he's been in TNA. He's really great guy as well. So there's so many of them who are just incredible talents, but also add so much to the locker room in terms of bringing up our guys and helping them to learn. So I hope it continues for a long time.
So, I was wondering, have you had any bad experiences backstage with the wrestlers? I mean, have you met any guys who were sort of jerks or anything? Had any problem like that?
I mean, I think in any industry you work in, there's always going to be people you get on with and people you don't. But no, I mean, I haven't had any horror stories.
Okay.
There's some people who are more there's some people who are more friendly than others, and some people are just kind of polite in a sort of do the minimum they have to and then go and retire into themselves. But no, I mean, that's the same with anything. I don't think that's unique to wrestling. But when people are really impressive, I think it's always good to give them a shout out, because they're just there's some real incredible pros in. Not just in TNA and Ring of Honor, but some of our guys who've been plugging away in Britain for a decade or so and haven't really gotten the recognition they deserved until quite recently. It's so good to see.
When I get on Twitter and look at Kirby stuff or Ligero stuff or Coffee stuff, these guys are working almost 7 days a week everywhere else, and then coming back to WCPW to do a show just to go back out. Ligero, I think, did 2 shows in 1 day the other day.
Oh well, he does that. He does that regularly.
That's insane.
El Ligero is he's booked by the vast majority of major companies on the British independent scene. He also works the summer camps. There's sort of summer holiday camps by the sea. They have a lot of wrestling shows during sort of June, July, and August, and he does all of those. I think I heard him say through a translator, of course, recently that he's already done. I think over 300 matches, and we're this year, and we're not at 300 days of the year so far. So on average, he's doing more than a match a day. That's how hard he works.
Damn, man, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's also a really good sign that there's that much business out there. The fact that he's able to get that much work shows that we have a booming industry out here, then there is that much work if you're a talented enough wrestler. Because if he could be the most talented guy in the world, and if we didn't have the promotions to support him, then he wouldn't be doing that much work. So it just shows you how healthy the British scene is right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it really is, because I've been doing as much. I tried to do some research on you and tried to do some research on British wrestling, so I didn't sound like such a complete dud, getting on here with you.
You did okay. You did good. Don't worry.
I appreciate that. But and it is booming right now. I mean, I'm gonna have to start looking at the other ones. I'm fixing to try and see if I can find some stuff to watch. Preston City Wrestling. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're another British promotion. I'm fixing to try and get into them, and maybe even get a representative of them on the show eventually to talk a little bit about their promotion. But they look interesting. They got a lot of WCPW guys, so I'm not completely out of my depth, and I get to meet some new wrestlers. So yeah, I'm looking into that very soon. But before we go, last question of the day. Because I know you're busy, and I've got to get to work myself. WWE, if they ever branched out to you, contract, come commentate for NXT or Raw, would you ever consider it, leaving the indie scene, or is the indie scene kind of comfortable for you?
I mean, I don't know if it'll ever happen anyway, but
hypothetical, hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, I love WWE. I've always loved WWE. I think what they've been doing in particular, I think their product has become even more interesting in the past few years. I think the Cruiserweight Classic this year was incredible. What they're doing with NXT is brilliant. And so I'm a huge fan. I think the vast majority of people who work in wrestling over here got into it because they were WWE fans to start with. So I think all of us would at least consider it if we were ever offered work there. But that said, I'm very happy, like I said, with what I'm doing. I'm in a very good place with the 3 companies I work for right now. So there's no immediate desire to move anywhere.
All right, everybody. This has been the big interview with Dave Bradshaw. Dave, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been fun. It's been fun.
It's been awesome. If I didn't have to work, man, I would keep talking. I really would, probably the rest of the day. But, Dave Bradshaw, you can hear him on WCPW. If you live out in the UK, you also can try and see him live or hear him on the other promotions that he works for. They just did a loaded on YouTube. Go and check it out. But yes, voice of WCPW. I had the privilege of interviewing today. Thanks again, Dave. You guys can check it all out on YouTube. Have a good one. We're going to get back to the live show that's going on right now. Well, sort of right now. This was Exit 92 Radio's big interview. Take care.